Welcome back, everyone. Let us look at our team's current offensive scenario. We all know there has been a glaring hole at the tight end position for over half a decade, but an interesting hypothetical trade proposal has emerged. An analyst suggested a major move involving a star tight end from Detroit. While currently just a rumor, this potential arrival could completely redefine our offensive system. It raises a massive question. Should our front office sacrifice future draft picks for a proven playmaker? Write your thoughts below, subscribe, and let us dissect what this means for our future. The potential acquisition of Sam Laporta by the Carolina Panthers is exactly the kind of conversation starter that stops you dead in your tracks. And frankly, it is a conversation this franchise has needed to have for a very long time. When we look at the landscape of the National Football League, we talk about premium positions, the quarterbacks, the edge rushers, the lockdown corners, but there is an undeniable structural truth that the best offensive minds in the game have leaned on for decades. If you have a tight end who can consistently win his one-on-one matchups, you effectively break the defense's ability to dictate the terms of the game. For the Carolina Panthers, this has been an aching void since the departure of Greg Olsen. We are talking about half a decade of watching the middle of the field operate like a vacuum. It is a black hole that has hampered the development of our quarterbacks and limited the creativity of our play callers. And the recent hypothetical chatter regarding a trade for Detroit's Sam Laporta is not just fantasy football fodder, it is a blueprint for how a rebuilding team accelerates its window of contention. Now, I understand the immediate visceral reaction from the fan base. We have seen the draft boards come and go. We have seen the free agency periods pass without the splash moves that many of us deem necessary. The argument has always been that the current Dave Canale's offense doesn't prioritize the position, but I find that logic to be fundamentally flawed. You don't ignore a position because your scheme doesn't feature it. You adapt your scheme because you finally have the caliber of talent that makes ignoring it impossible. If you look at the track record of high-level tight ends, they aren't just targets. They are security blankets for young quarterbacks. They are the players who convert on 3rd and 7 when the blitz is coming and the coverage is tight. If we are genuinely committed to finding out what we have under center and building a sustainable identity, we have to stop settling for mediocrity at the tight end spot. The trade proposal floating around the media circles, specifically the one suggesting a move for Laporta, is fascinating because it addresses the injury risk narrative that often suppresses a player's trade value. We saw the back injury issues that sidelined him in 2025, and that is exactly the kind of leverage a front office needs to exploit. In the NFL, perception is reality, and if a team like the Lions is wary of a long-term commitment due to durability concerns, that creates a window of opportunity for a team like Carolina to swoop in. Is it a gamble? Of course it is. Every transaction in this league is a gamble. But when you look at the cost, even if we are talking about high-round draft capital, you have to ask yourself, what is the value of a proven elite playmaker who is just entering his prime? We spend years hoping draft picks turn into a fraction of what Laporta has already proven he can be. Why gamble on the unknown when you can acquire the known, provided the price point is grounded in reality? Let's look at the broader implications for the Carolina Panthers roster. We are currently in a state of flux, trying to identify our cornerstone players on offense. We have invested heavily in the perimeter, and we have searched for answers in the backfield, but the middle of the field remains a barren landscape. Integrating a talent like Laporta wouldn't just change the stat sheet, it would change the defensive personnel packages we face every single Sunday. When you have a tight end who can beat linebackers in coverage and force safeties to cheat toward the seam, you are creating space for everyone else. That is the ripple effect of elite talent. It is not just about the catches or the touchdowns. It is about the attention he demands from the defensive coordinator. It makes the job of our wide receivers easier. It makes the job of our running backs easier. It simplifies the read for our quarterback. That is the kind of force multiplier we have been missing since 2019. The coaching staff, led by Dave Canales, would be presented with a brand new toy, and the question is whether they have the vision to use it. If we bring in a player of that caliber and continue to run him out as a primary blocker, while the passing game remains static, we have failed the process. This trade would represent an admission from the front office that the status quo is unacceptable. It would signal to the fans that we are no longer interested in simply filling a roster spot for the sake of completion, but rather that we are aggressively hunting for the pieces that put us in the conversation with the elite teams in the NFC. We have spent years reflecting on what was lost with the departure of the old guard, but you cannot win in today's NFL by living in the past. You win by identifying market inefficiencies and exploiting them. If the Lions are willing to listen, Carolina has to be the first number on their caller ID. Think about the psychological impact on the locker room. There is a palpable difference between playing for a team that is hoarding draft picks for some future, nebulous benefit, and playing for a team that is actively bringing in proven high-impact talent. When you add a player who has already proven he can produce at a Pro Bowl level, who has survived the crucible of a deep playoff run, you lift the standard of the entire room. You raise the expectations for preparation. You raise the level of intensity during practice. It is about culture as much as it is about X's and O's. Are we at a point where we are ready to take that step, or are we still content to sit on our hands, waiting for a draft prospect to fall into our laps? The question isn't just about whether Laporta is available. It is about whether we have the conviction to execute a move that genuinely moves the needle. There is always the counter-argument regarding the draft capital, and believe me, I hear it. We value those picks. We want to see the long-term build through the college ranks. But how many times have we seen a third or fourth round tight end come into the league and provide essentially nothing of value? The hit rate on that position is notoriously low. By trading for a known quantity, you eliminate the risk of the draft bust while guaranteeing yourself a cornerstone for the next 4 or 5 years. In a league where the window to win is so incredibly small, we cannot afford to be sentimental about picks that haven't been made yet. We need impact, and we need it now. Reflecting on the history of this franchise, we have always been at our best when we have had an identity that scared people. Whether it was the sheer physicality of our defensive units or the versatility of our playmakers, we were a team that forced opponents to adjust to us. Currently, we are too often the ones doing the adjusting. We are reacting to the opposing defense rather than dictating the flow of the game. Sam Laporta is an offensive weapon who forces the opposition to play on your terms. He is a matchup nightmare. If the price is a couple of high-round picks, you write the check and you don't look back. You take that risk because the upside is having a centerpiece that fundamentally changes your offensive ceiling. Ultimately, this comes down to one simple question. Do we want to keep playing it safe, or do we want to start winning? Safety is how you stay stuck in the middle of the pack for years on end. Boldness, calculated, strategic, aggressive boldness, is how you bridge the gap between being a team that is just participating and a team that is actually competing. I want to see this front office stop being an observer in the trade market and start being a participant. The pieces are there if you are willing to make the tough calls, and the fans deserve to see a product on the field that reflects an urgency to improve. If this move happens, it would be the single most significant signal of progress the Panthers have made in years. It would prove that we are capable of identifying the flaws in our own house and fixing them with the best available tools, regardless of the conventional wisdom or the reluctance of others to part with their assets. We are at a crossroads, and every decision we make in the coming months will define the trajectory of this franchise for the foreseeable future. I hope they choose to be bold. I hope they choose to be decisive. And most importantly, I hope they understand that the fans are ready for the next level. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay ahead of the curve as we continue to analyze every move this franchise makes in the coming weeks, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's keep pushing the conversation forward together.